Jack Mercer was a lonely man, a space salvager. He worked alone, drifting between old battlefields and dead moons, collecting scraps no one wanted. He never asked for company. He never expected surprises, until one day, he heard something impossible. His ship, the Wren, was scanning the remains of a destroyed fleet. Static buzzed through the speakers. The wreckage was ancient. Burned metal. Cold silence. No life signs. Jack leaned back in his seat. Just another empty graveyard. Then he felt it. Not through the ship's systems. Not through his helmet. It was a sound. A soft, trembling cry. He froze. There's no air in space, he whispered. No sound. Still, the cry returned. Faint, broken, like a child calling from the dark. His hands moved quickly. He rerouted sensors, adjusted the heat scans. Deep, in the shadow of a shattered cruiser, something flickered. A pod, still intact. He flew closer. The pod's hull was covered in burn marks. Its emergency beacon was offline, but inside, a small life form clung to the last breath of heat. Jack suited up. He launched from the airlock, floating toward the broken cruiser. Ice covered the pod's surface. One panel was cracked, but the seal held. He pressed his gloved hand against the glass. A girl, small, curled up, skin a soft shade of blue, eyes shut, lips trembling. She was alive. Jack's breath caught in his throat. He opened the pod carefully and lifted her out. She was light, like a feather. Her fingers twitched, then clutched the front of his suit. Back, on the Wren, he placed her on the medbed. She didn't wake up, but her breathing steadied. She had strange marks on her arms, faint glowing lines that pulsed like veins of light. Jack ran a basic scan, but the computer gave no species match. She wasn't in any database. He wrapped her in a warm blanket. She turned slightly and mumbled a sound. It wasn't English, but it sounded like pain. Jack sat beside her. He had no idea what to do. "Where did you come from?" he asked softly. "What happened to you?" She didn't answer, just curled closer to the blanket. He thought of turning her over to the authorities. Alien child survivors had protocols, but something inside told him not to. She looked like someone who had been running, someone who had lost everything. She needed safety, not questions. That night, Jack stayed awake, watching over her. He decided to name her Lyra. The next day, she woke up. Her eyes were large and silver, like moons. She didn't speak, but she looked around with fear. Jack smiled gently. "It's okay," he said. "You're safe now." She didn't understand the words, but she understood the tone. She touched his hand, then pulled it close to her chest. Days passed. She didn't eat much, just small bites. She learned quickly, watched everything, followed Jack around the ship like a shadow. He talked to her as he worked, told her about the stars, about Earth, about the silence of space. She never spoke, but she began to smile. One night, Jack heard humming. He walked toward the sound. There she was, sitting near the viewing window, singing in a voice so soft, it felt like it came from a dream. A melody full of sadness, full of longing. Jack felt tears rise in his eyes. She wasn't just a child. She carried a world inside her. Then something strange happened. As she sang, the marks on her skin began to glow again, bright and steady. The ship's lights flickered. The sensors glitched. Jack stared. "Lyra," he whispered. "What are you?" The humming stopped. She turned to look at him. Her silver eyes glowed faintly. Far across the galaxy, in the heart of a shattered throne world, an ancient computer woke up. It had been silent for many years, waiting now. It had found the signal. It was programmed to recognize the royal bloodline, still alive, and it sent out a message to those who still hunted the last heir. She had been found. Back on the Wren, Jack sat beside Lyra, unaware of what he had brought aboard. He didn't know he had just saved the most important girl in the galaxy. He only knew she needed him, and he was not going to let her go. Jack Mercer never planned to be a father. He lived in space, worked alone, trusted no one. But everything changed the day he found Lyra. It had been 3 months since he brought her aboard the Wren. She didn't speak much, but she stayed close to him, always watching, always listening. Jack taught her simple things: how to use the food replicator, how to float in zero gravity, how to read old star maps. She learned fast. Too fast. One day, Jack caught her fixing a broken circuit in the engine room. He hadn't shown her how. She just did it. She smiled when he saw her, like she was proud. Jack stared for a moment, then laughed. "You're a little genius," he said. Lyra tilted her head. "Genius?" she asked softly. It was the first word she had ever said in English. From that day on, her words came quicker. Jack spoke more, and she repeated everything. She learned whole sentences in weeks, but the more she learned, the more questions she asked. "Where am I from?" she asked one evening. Jack paused. He looked at the stars outside the window. "I don't know," he said. "I found you near a dead fleet. There were no records, no signs." "Why was I alone?" she asked. "I don't know that either." She looked down, silent. He placed a hand on her shoulder. "But you're not alone anymore," he said gently. "You have me." Lyra nodded, but something in her eyes stayed distant, like her mind was searching for pieces of a puzzle she didn't remember. A week later, Jack landed the Wren on Earth, a quiet clearing near the Colorado mountains, his old home. He built a cabin from scratch, taught Lyra how to plant vegetables, how to swim in cold water, how to roast food by fire. She laughed when she saw snow for the first time, caught flakes on her tongue, ran in circles until she fell. For a while, it felt like peace. But strange things still happened. Birds gathered near her when she sang. Lights flickered when she cried. And once, when a mountain lion appeared near the cabin, Lyra raised her hand and whispered something. The animal froze, then turned away. Jack saw it all, but he said nothing. He didn't want her to feel like a freak. He wanted her to feel safe, human. Even if he knew she wasn't single quotes T. One night, while cleaning the storage room, Lyra found something hidden in a box. An old artifact, a small sphere made of dark crystal, covered in alien symbols. Jack had taken it from the wreck years ago, before he found her. It had never reacted to anything, until now. The moment she touched it, the room lit up. A soft hum filled the air. Symbols glowed. The sphere floated gently above her hand. Jack rushed in and stopped in his tracks. Lyra was staring at the sphere, her eyes glowing like silver fire, the same lines on her arms pulsing with light. Then the sphere dropped. The light faded. Everything went still. "What was that?" she whispered. Jack slowly walked over and picked up the sphere. It was cold again. "I don't know," he said quietly. He was lying. He had heard of technology like this. Ancient relics, power keys, only used by royal bloodlines in old empires. He looked at Lyra, at her scared face. He wanted to ask, but he didn't. That night, as she slept, Jack sat alone, outside the cabin, the sphere in his hand. He was starting to realize the truth. Lyra wasn't just an alien. She wasn't just a lost child. She was connected to something far greater, something ancient, and maybe dangerous. But none of that mattered to him. He had seen the way she looked at the stars, the way she laughed when she ran through the grass, the way she called him Dad for the first time last week. She was his daughter now. Whatever came next, he would protect her. But far above Earth, in the cold silence of space, something had changed. A satellite, orbiting deep in the outer system, picked up a signal, one that matched no human tech. A forgotten frequency. The message was short, just one pulse of royal energy. It triggered an alert on a hidden ship, drifting in the dark. The crew inside woke from stasis. They read the signal. Their orders were clear: find the air, recover the bloodline, or destroy it. The cabin was quiet. Night covered the mountains. Stars blinked above the treetops. Lyra stood outside, barefoot in the grass, looking at the sky. The cool wind brushed against her skin, but she didn't feel cold. She was listening, not with her ears, with something deeper, a sense that had always been there. A voice calling, a memory buried far away. She closed her eyes. A flash hit her mind, a golden hall, tall pillars of crystal, a woman kneeling, holding her close. You must run, the woman whispered. They are coming. Then came fire and silence. Lyra gasped and dropped to her knees. Inside the cabin, Jack heard the noise. He rushed out and found her trembling in the grass. Lyra, he shouted, dropping beside her. She looked at him with wide, silver eyes. I saw her, she whispered. My mother. Jack froze. She wore a crown, and there was light everywhere. But, everything burned. He held her close. You're remembering, he said quietly. Lyra nodded. I think I know how to find her. Jack looked at her, confused, worried. She ran inside, opened a drawer, and took out the crystal sphere. The artifact that had reacted to her. She placed it on the table. Then she closed her eyes. Jack started to speak, but the sphere lit up, floating again, spinning gently. Symbols appeared in the air above it, moving like a map. Then, a soft pulse of energy rippled through the room. It was beautiful and terrifying. Jack's radio crackled to life. Static hissed through it. Then came a voice, unknown language, robotic, cold. Lyra opened her eyes. What was that? She asked. Jack checked the systems. His heart sank. That pulse went off-world. She looked at him. Where? Jack swallowed. Everywhere. That signal had just lit up half the sky. Any satellite tuned to deep frequencies would have seen it, including the ones humans didn't own. Jack switched on his private scanner, a secure one used by deep space salvagers. It beeped once, then again multiple times. Unknown vessels were moving. He stared at the screen. They're coming, he said softly. Lyra looked at the sphere. Her voice almost broke. I didn't mean to, I know. Jack sat beside her. The map in the air kept spinning, a route marked in glowing symbols, leading far beyond the known systems. I think it's showing you where you came from, he said. Lyra nodded slowly. But now someone else knows too. Far above Earth, in the cold silence of space, a hunter ship changed course. Black as night, built to hide, built to kill. Inside, figures moved in silence, eyes cold, faces masked. Their leader stood before a hologram of Lyra's signal, royal signature confirmed. One of them said, the leader nodded, prepare the strike. The crew bowed. No emotion, no hesitation. They had destroyed her kind before. They would do it again. This time the last spark of her blood would be snuffed out for good, back on Earth. Jack packed their gear. Where are we going? Lyra asked. To someone who might understand this, he replied. An old friend. She studies alien tech. If anyone can read that map, it's her. They flew out in the Wren, leaving the cabin behind. Lyra stared through the window. The Earth slowly shrank behind them. Her heart ached. That small blue world was the only home she had ever known. She wasn't ready to leave, but she had no choice. She whispered to herself, I'll come back. Jack placed a hand on her shoulder. We'll make sure of it. On the hunter ship, a new signal came through. A distorted message, sent across secure channels. It was old, cracked, and hidden in layers of data. But the hunters heard it. A voice, familiar, strong. If you're hearing this, they're coming for you. Run. It was Lyra's mother, a warning left behind in her final moments. The leader of the hunters smiled under his mask. She's awake, he said. and she's starting to remember. He turned to his crew. Begin phase 2. Find her. Eliminate any human who stands in our way. Out in the stars, a girl ran from her past. A man stood ready to protect her, and an entire galaxy stirred as an ancient bloodline woke once more. The hunt had begun. The stars looked calm, but Jack knew better. He flew the Renlo through the clouds of Titan's station, a hidden research base floating near Saturn's rings. It was where his old friend, Dr. Helena Rowe, lived and worked. She was one of Earth's top Xenotech experts. Jack trusted her. At least, he hoped he still could. Lyra sat beside him in silence, her hands clenched tight. The crystal sphere sat in her lap, dim but pulsing softly. "You okay?" Jack asked. Lyra nodded, but her eyes stayed on the sky. "I feel watched," she said. Jack checked the scanners. Nothing. Still, he didn't argue. He had the same feeling, like something cold was crawling toward them. They landed. Dr. Rowe greeted them in a sealed lab chamber. She was in her 40s, short hair, sharp eyes, mind always working. She stared at Lyra like she was looking at a legend. "She's not just alien, Jack. She's Orion," Rowe whispered. "They ruled half the galaxy thousands of years ago. We thought they were extinct." Lyra stepped back. "What does that mean?" Rowe looked at her gently. "It means you're not just anyone. You're the last of a fallen empire. And that sphere, it's not just a map. It's a royal key." Jack's stomach tightened. "But what does it open?" Before Rowe could answer, alarms blared. Red lights flashed. Lyra dropped the sphere. It rolled across the floor and stopped glowing bright. "Unknown vessel entering the station's orbit," the AI announced. Jack ran to the control screen. A dark ship hovered above the clouds. No response. No ID. No life signs. But it was there. "They found us," Lyra said quietly. The station shook. Explosions rocked the outer decks. "Defense grid is failing," the AI warned. "Breach in Sector 3. Rowe's voice shook. They bypassed every firewall. They knew exactly where to strike. Jack grabbed Lyra's hand. "We need to move." As they ran, a wall blew open. Smoke filled the corridor. Figures stepped through. Tall, armored and black, eyes glowing with icy light. They moved like shadows, silent, deadly. Jack raised his blaster, fired once. Nothing. The shot hit, but the enemy didn't fall. It kept walking. One of them reached for Lyra. She screamed. Her hands rose. And then, everything exploded. Not the station, not a weapon. Her light burst from her body. A wave of force knocked the hunters back. The walls cracked. The lights shattered. Wind howled through the broken airlocks. Jack hit the floor hard. When he looked up, Lyra was floating. Her eyes burned with silver fire. The glowing marks on her arms had spread across her chest. Her face, ancient symbols glowing like stars. The hunters staggered. One of them raised a blade. Lyra looked at him. Her voice was not her own. "You hunted my blood. You burned my world. I am not afraid of you." She raised her hand. The hunter's body twisted, then burst into flame. He screamed before vanishing into ash. The others retreated. For the first time, they showed fear. Jack stared in shock. She landed softly, shaking. Her eyes returned to normal. "I didn't mean to do that," she whispered. Jack stood. "You saved us, but I don't know how," she said. Rowe stepped forward, stunned. That wasn't just power. That was command-level control. Genetic activation. "You didn't learn that. You were born with it." Lyra turned to Jack. "Who am I?" He took her hand. "You're Lyra, the girl I found, the one I raised." She looked into his eyes. "But I'm not just that, am I?" "No," he said softly. "You're something more. But you're still my daughter." Tears filled her eyes. She hugged him tight. The remaining hunters vanished into the smoke. Escaping back to their ship, They had seen what they came to see. The air had awakened. On the hunter vessel, the leader removed his helmet, gray skin, scarred face, eyes full of hate. "She is stronger than expected," one of his men said. The leader stared at the screen showing Lyra's energy burst. "She's becoming her mother." He turned away. "But this time, we'll be ready." Back on the station, Rose sealed the lab. "She can't stay here," she said. "Now that they've seen her power, they won't stop." Jack nodded. "Then we go to them. To wherever that map leads." Ro handed the sphere to Lyra. "Your past is calling. Maybe it's time to answer." Lyra looked at the glowing key. She wasn't running anymore. She was ready to fight. The Wren flew silently through deep space. Far behind them, Titan Station drifted in smoke and silence. Ahead of them, a new path opened, one marked by the crystal sphere, glowing brighter each day. Lyra sat alone in her cabin, holding it gently. She could feel it pulling her somewhere, not with gravity, but with memory. A forgotten connection. A calling she didn't fully understand. Jack entered, holding 2 cups of warm tea. "You okay?" he asked. Lyra looked up. "I don't know." He sat beside her. "I'm scared," she said. "What if I find out something I don't want to know?" Jack took a slow sip. "Then you face it. Because you're stronger than you think." She smiled weakly. "That's what you always say. And I'm always right." The sphere floated between them. Suddenly, it pulsed. Symbols flickered above it. A new one appeared, a crown with wings of fire. Then came a voice. Not through speakers. Not through translation tech. Directly into their minds. A woman's voice. "If you are hearing this, then my daughter lives." Lyra froze. "This message is encoded in royal blood. It will only play for my heir." Jack set his tea down. His hands shook slightly. The hologram formed soft light glowing in the air. A tall woman, elegant, powerful, eyes like Lyra's, silver and kind. "I am Queen Soraya of the Aryan Empire." Or, I was. Her voice broke slightly, just enough to feel human. "Our empire fell to betrayal. Our allies turned against us. My council was poisoned. My guards bought. I barely escaped with you in my arms." Lyra's heart pounded. "You were just a baby. I placed you in a life pod. Sent you far beyond the war zone. I hoped someone kind would find you." She looked directly at Lyra. "If you're hearing this, then they're still hunting you." The image flickered, but the Queen's voice returned. "You hold the last royal key. It can unlock the throne core. If the core still stands, it holds our legacy, our technology, our memories, our truth." The Queen's voice hardened. "But be warned. The ones who destroyed us still rule the galaxy in secret. They wear new colors, new flags, but the same hunger for power." The image started to fade. "You are more than my daughter. You are a light the darkness couldn't kill. You are Orion." The sphere dimmed. Silence returned. Lyra sat still, tears in her eyes. Jack put a hand on her shoulder. "She was brave," he said. "She was alone," Lyra whispered. "Just like I was." Jack shook his head. "Not anymore." 3 days later, the Wren dropped out of hyperspace. Before them floated a broken world. Black rock, cracks of blue fire, remains of buildings that once touched the stars. "This was Orion Prime," Lyra whispered. The sphere glowed. A path appeared. Jack followed it through the dust, clouds, and debris. They landed near a giant door carved into the mountain. Symbols lined the surface. Long dead. But when Lyra stepped forward, they lit up, one by one. A deep sound echoed as the door opened. Inside was a hall of glass and metal, empty, silent, but full of memory. The throne. Cord in the center stood a pedestal. On it, a chamber, locked tight. Lyra stepped forward. The sphere floated into place, clicked into the lock, and spun. The chamber opened. Inside was a crown, silver and crystal. and next to it, a memory drive. Jack picked it up and plugged it into the ship's system. A flood of images appeared. Records, battles, maps, enemies, betrayals, names. One stood out. Lord Vecker. He was my mother's advisor, Lyra said. She trusted him. Jack's face darkened. He's the one leading the hunters now. He survived, and now he's finishing what he started. Lyra stared at the crown. I don't want to rule. Jack stepped closer. You don't have to rule, but you have to choose. Choose what? He looked her in the eyes. Run, or fight. She stared at the silent hall, at the symbols of a lost people, at the weight of everything she had just learned. Then, slowly, she picked up the crown. I'm not running anymore. Across the stars, Vecker watched the data spike. She's activated the core, one of his soldiers said. Vecker smiled. Good. Let her gather the pieces. Then we take everything from her. Again, his ship turned, heading straight for Orion Prime. But Lyra had changed. She wasn't the scared girl Jack had found in the void. She was a queen now, and the galaxy was about to remember what the Orion truly were. The galaxy was watching. Not openly, not with words, but in silence, in fear. The signal from Orion Prime had spread far. The last royal core was active again. The name Lyra now echoed across old systems and hidden channels. She was alive, and she had the crown. But she was not alone. She had Earth behind her. Inside the Wren, Jack studied the memory drive again. It showed maps, alliances, technologies once lost. Secrets the Orion kept hidden from enemies. Rose's voice came through. The comes. This tech is centuries ahead of anything we have. If we share it carefully, we could protect Earth. Jack shook his head. We can't just protect Earth. We need to prepare it. For what? For war. Vecker's fleet was moving. Black ships, thousands of them. Silent engines. Cloaked. Weapons. They would reach Earth in a matter of days. But Jack was ready. He had spent the last week building something new, with Lyra's help. He activated old Aryan blueprints and shared them with Earth's top engineers. Weapons that could bend. Gravity shields that could reflect plasma. Engines that turned simple ships into fighters. Earth was no longer in the dark. They were building their own fleet. Human pilots trained fast. Too fast for Vecker to expect. Their minds were creative. Their spirit unshakable. They had no empire. But they had something else. Something that even the strongest alien kings had. Underestimated. They had the will to survive. Lyra stood before a room full of Earth's military leaders. She wore no crown, no armor. Just a simple suit and a calm voice. I do not ask you to fight for me, she said. I ask you to fight for a future where no child is hunted for their blood, where power doesn't decide who lives. Silence filled the room. Then General Rhea stood. He was old, tough, not easily moved, but he looked at Lyra with respect. You've got your war, princess. The day came. Vecker's ships dropped out of warp near Mars. Their engines covered the red planet in black shadow. Earth saw them. And responded. From the skies over Luna Base, from the oceans of the Pacific, from underground hangars across continents. Earth's fleet rose. Hundreds of ships, sleek, armed, glowing with a mix of human design and Aryan power. Jack led the first squadron. His ship, the Wren, had been reborn. Faster, stronger. He looked at the screen. Ready, Lyra? Her voice came through. Steady. Let's finish what they started. The first strike came fast. Vecker's ships opened fire. Plasma cannons lit the dark. Earth's fleet dodged and countered. Fighters danced between explosions. Jack weaved through enemy lines, locking onto targets. He had never been a soldier. But now, he flew like one born in the stars. Lyra stayed aboard the flagship. From there, she guided the entire fleet using the royal systems. Her thoughts connected with the old tech. She became a living weapon, She predicted Vecker's moves, turned his own strategies against him, but still, they kept coming. Vecker himself led the center wave. His command ship was massive. Shields nearly unbreakable. Jack saw it on the radar. We need to end this now. They formed a plan. Jack's team would break through the center and drop Lyra onto the enemy's ship. She would use her royal key to overload their systems from the inside. It was dangerous. It was crazy. But it was the only chance. They flew together. The squad broke through the outer shields, took heavy fire. One ship went down. Another barely made it through. Jack turned sharply. Is it Lyra? She nodded. The ship opened. She jumped through space. Toward the enemy vessel. A small figure. Alone. But she wasn't afraid. She landed hard. Rolled. Got up. Fast. Guards rushed her. She raised her hand. Energy burst from her like a storm. The hallway melted around her light. She ran forward. Deeper into the ship. Until she found it. The power cord dot. She placed the crystal sphere into the control. The ship shook. VKR appeared behind her. You are nothing, he growled. A child playing with power you do not understand. She turned to him. Understand this. You destroyed my family. You killed my people. But you couldn't break me. He raised his blade. She raised her hand. Their powers clashed. Light against darkness. Flame against shadow. The ship cracked. Jack's voice came through. Lyra, we're out of time. She smiled. Then unleashed everything. A wave of energy shot out from her chest. The core shattered. The ship broke apart. Jack saw the explosion from space. Lyra. But then, a second light appeared. Bright dot, steady dot. From the center. Lyra floated upward. Alive. Glowing. She was more than Orion now. She was something new, born from both Earth and the stars. Vecker's fleet retreated. The battle was over. Humanity had risen, not as slaves, not as primitives, but as equals. As warriors, as protectors. Back on Earth, Lyra stood in front of a small crowd. Leaders, soldiers, children. She spoke gently. I am not your ruler. I am not your savior. I am a child who was shown kindness. A stranger, who was given a home. She looked at Jack. And now? I am your sister in this fight for peace. They clapped. They cheered. But more than anything, they believed. The war was over. But peace was just beginning. The stars felt different now. For the first time in many years, the galaxy wasn't afraid of shadows. It was watching something new, something human, something powerful. Lyra stood on the edge of a hilltop. Green fields stretched around her. Above Earth's blue sky glowed soft and warm. Wind passed through her hair. It had been 3 weeks since the battle. Vecker's fleet was gone. Earth had survived, and the name Orion had returned to the stars. But Lyra had not returned to a throne. She had come back here, to the mountains, to the place Jack once called home. The old cabin still stood, slightly burned, slightly broken, but standing so. Much had changed, yet this place reminded her who she really was. Jack walked up behind her, holding 2 cups of hot tea. She smiled. Still making it the same way? She asked. He grinned, strong and bitter, like me. She laughed, a soft, gentle sound, but behind her smile, Jack saw the weight she still carried. You miss her, he said. Lyra nodded. My mother, my people, a future I never got to live. She looked up at the sky. I'm a queen with no kingdom, a star-born girl raised on Earth. Jack stepped closer. No, he said, you're more than that. You are the bridge between 2 worlds. Your hope? Later that day, a small ship landed in the field. It wasn't military. No weapons, no armor, just clean lines and soft lights. From it stepped a group of alien diplomats, different species. Some once loyal to the Orion, others neutral, all curious. They had come to talk. They didn't kneel. They didn't demand. They listened. Lyra spoke with honesty. "We don't need new empires," she said. "We need trust, trade, peace. If you want war, I won't join you. But if you want unity," she opened her hand, "then I will stand with you." And they accepted. A new alliance was born, not ruled by power, but led by cooperation. Earth was no longer just a forgotten corner of the galaxy. It was now part of something larger. Humanity had earned its place among the stars, not by dominance, but by standing beside a scared little girl and calling her family. That night, Lyra sat near the fire. Jack handed her an old datapad. "What's this?" she asked. "A gift," he said. She opened it. Inside was a single message, recorded long ago. It was Jack's voice, rough, quiet. "If I don't make it back, I want her to know something," the voice said. "Lyra, you changed me. I was just a broken man floating through space. But then I heard your cry, and I knew I had to answer. I didn't save you. You saved me." Lyra held the pad close to her heart. Tears streamed down her face. Jack looked at her from across the fire. "You still listen to that?" he asked. "Every time I forget who I am," she whispered. Jack smiled. "A little older now, a little slower, but proud. You'll never forget." Years passed. The galaxy changed. Humans walked new worlds. Old enemies became uneasy allies. Children in school learned the story of a man who found a lost girl and helped her become a queen. They called it the spark of peace. Statues were raised, books were written, but one marker sat quietly on a small green hill, under the sky Lyra loved. Most it was a simple stone, no gold, no lights, just words. Jack Mercer, the man who raised a queen. And next to it, every year, without fail, Lyra returned. She brought flowers and sat in silence, not as a ruler, not as a hero, but as a daughter, because in the end, this was never just a story about war or power or stars. It was about a bond, a human who answered a cry in the void, and a girl who found her home in his heart. The galaxy would never forget them, and neither would she.